This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Business podcast. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk with Albert Uresti, the Bexar County Tax Assessor-Collector, an elected position Mr. Uresti has held since 2013. Albert has been nominated twice for Tax Assessor-Collector of the Year and spent 25 years with the San Antonio Fire Department. Albert, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here, and just to be truthful, this is my very first podcast, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right, good guy. We're excited to have you here and clear up some unknowns in your field. So excited to chat. I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the CEO of Crookus Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced overseas administrative assistants for insurance agents and attorneys, and for pretty much any small business. So if you're curious about the most common tasks that virtual assistants are doing for businesses, head over to our website at crookus.com and grab a list of the top 20 tasks that VAs are doing for businesses like yours. Link is in the podcast description.
And I am your co-host, Heather Rose Boehme, founder of Onset Process Development, where we specialize in helping businesses get ready to go on the market and sell for max valuation.
Outstanding. I'm Howie Nestel. I own Sharkmatic Advertising, a cool ad agency, serious about results for our clients. So for 35 years, we've helped about 1,500 clients not only build websites and logos and branding and influence marketing, but we help get our clients' message branded, put economically and effectively in front of their prospects, because that's how you build clients. So that's a leading indicator. If you're not marketing, if you're not advertising, chances are you're not bringing in as much revenue as you can for your business. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, go to sharkmatic.com. Let's sit down for an hour and talk about how marketing can help revolutionize the sales of your business.
Yeah, and you're fun to talk to.
And
always have a good time.
Yeah, and if you come in the afternoon, we might have a beer or a old
just double whatever time frame you've got on the calendar.
So we can chit chat and do some business.
You know, I'm going to be doing a photo shoot on the Riverwalk tomorrow. So I'm hoping the weather holds out. But since you mentioned beer, I think that Matt Roberts, who's doing the photography, is going to set me up with a Modelo.
Very nice.
So you're just getting more like professional shots done?
Yeah, this is
Very
lifestyle,
nice.
business
branding,
lifestyle.
yeah.
Don't put
Andrea
brand.
Garza is going to be down there with me too, so
Cool.
we're doing some stuff to get ready for that second business launch.
Don't put a brand of a specific beer.
Yeah, that's
because
I kind of
Copyright
agree too,
infringement.
but Modelo is like it's like kind of woven into the culture of San Antonio, is it not?
Well, you can tell it's a Modelo without seeing the Modelo brand just by like the top.
bottle.
Yeah, the bottle.
Well, Albert was nodding his head yes over here, so
He knows what
that's
a Modelo
Well,
official.
no, because he wants a Modelo.
He just wants to go to the Riverwalk.
Yeah.
All right, a quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media where you can catch video versions of the show. You can get to everything easily from our website at satalkradio.com. All right, so Albert, can you tell me a little bit about your background? We touched on it a little bit. You've been in San Antonio, sounds like your whole life, and went to school here, and then had a professional career here as a civil servant, same as myself, and then retired from that and went on to public service. But can you just give us a quick rundown of your background and what led you to the Bexar County Tax Assessor-Collector office?
Well, first of all, I got to tell you, I've been married to Elsie for over 51 years, so it's kind of that's probably my major accomplishment. And then I also have 3 children and 5 grandchildren, and so those are things that really are exciting to me. And I got to put in a plug for my granddaughter, Alita, who is just a tremendous soccer player, and she scored 6 goals the other day.
Wow.
The second most in San Antonio history, so we're advancing to the area playoffs. So, but, you know, the way I wound up here was that when my predecessor decided to run for Congress, you know, I had a master's degree in public administration. I'd been a city manager. I'd been in government for many years, and so when she decided to run for another office, you know, a lot of people started calling me, hey, this is a perfect fit for you and something that you should go for. And plus, I love helping people, and I know now why the Lord put me here, and he put me here to help thousands of people, but, you know, also to help nonprofits, help churches, because nonprofits are not very good, you know, bookkeepers, and because they have a constant turnover, you know, a lot of them are volunteers, and so we've been able to help a lot of nonprofits, a lot of churches, and, of course, thousands of people. So it was a natural transition for me.
So, real quick, I think we would probably need to clarify exactly what it means to be the tax assessor collector, because I know until we had met with you, I assumed you were just the reason that my property taxes has gone up so much. So, what is it that really that role means within your scope?
Well, thank you for bringing that up because it gives me a chance to explain that. I can't tell you, sometimes we're in parades or different places we're walking that get people yelling, hey, lower my taxes. But we don't set the taxes. That the Bear Appraisal District, which is not part of my organization, is the one that actually sets the property values. And, of course, the different taxing entities, the school district, the city, the county, they're the ones that set your tax rate. So you combine the tax rate and the property values, that's what gives you your taxes. We are the ones that collect them from the different for the different taxing entities. But of course, there's a lot of other things that we do. But yeah, we do not set your property values. That's the Bear Appraisal District. Which reminds me, you'll be receiving your value increase notices here in April, and you have until May 15th to protest your property values.
So I know people sometimes hire somebody to represent them to fight the property tax, and then others go and do it on their own. Is that anything that you can shed some light on? Do you recommend one or the other, or it just depends?
We looked at a map the other day, and it was kind of interesting that if you go into your more affluent areas here in Bexar County, a lot of those people hire tax agents. But once you get inside 410, most people do it on their own. It's not really difficult to do. Basically, you have to beat up your home. But there's also, on the application, there's a little red box. And if you check that box, the Bear Appraisal District has to show you everything that they're going to present in the case. So it's something that takes some work, but it's nothing that is, out of something. It's just not something that's impossible to do. It's actually relatively simple.
Okay. And I know that people have different opinions about paying taxes, not just their property tax, there's taxes in general. We all benefit as citizens by paying taxes, right? We get fire and police protection. We get services that the county provides. And then, of course, that goes all the way up to the national level. But explain to us a little bit about why Texas is structured the way it is with property taxes and how property taxes actually go to pay for public education and the importance of that. Because I know other states are not set up that way. And so they hear from their friends that their property tax on their house valued at the same amount as theirs, that their property taxes in another state are a lot lower.
And, and that is true. We have, I think it's the second highest sales tax in the country. We also have our property taxes are more than a lot of states. However, the big difference in most scenarios is that we do not have an income tax, a state income tax. And I don't know if an elected official or politician is going to step forward and push for a income tax. So, it's something that we're, going to have for eternity, as far as I can see. But property taxes, they, as you mentioned, they fund our fire, our police, our streets. The interesting thing is 50% of your tax bill goes to school districts. So when you get your bill, and if it's $5,000, $2,500 is going to the school district in general. And so that is a big percentage, and it's to educate our children, and I have a lot of senior citizens that come up to me and they say that, hey, I don't have any kids in school. I don't have to pay school taxes. Well, when you had children in school, there was a senior citizen back there paying taxes for you. So, but, there are some exemptions that have been moved forward by the state, and we have a new one that's coming up. They're going to increase the school exemption from $100,000 to $140,000, and for seniors it'll be $150,000. So we're going to see a lot of senior citizens that will pay zero school taxes. So we're excited about that.
Oh, and I feel like it's the school thing is a little bit like we probably don't need to get into it, because it's like, yes, they will pay zero, which is good because they don't have kids, but at the same time, like, where the school district's at, depending on the school district. My kids go to SAISD, and like it was closed because it was too cold one day because they haven't had their heaters replaced. So, but that's not your purview. That you're just getting the money. You are not managing it. And I feel like on the residential side, people have some protections in place. You know, you got your homestead exemption, 10% cap. Thank goodness for that every year, I say, because that has been saving my butt. But if we switch it over to the commercial side, because most business owners, you know, the residential taxes, they deal with them, and real estate has so many good ways to mitigate property taxes. But if you are in a retail commercial lease or in a space lease, those taxes aren't capped. So what's being done to help business owners mitigate the rising prices? Because even if you're just renting, you're having to pay triple net, which means you're paying taxes. So
yeah, but the tenant is paying it, not necessarily the property.
well, I'm
owner.
talking about the tenant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the rent prices are increasing because the tenant's paying
That's
triple
correct.
net leases,
Yes.
and which means they could have started out with a $2,500 a month lease, but because property taxes skyrocketed in 2021 and 2022, all of a sudden they're looking at $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month lease, and
by
they
the
can't
way,
afford it.
even if you're in a lease, the property owner can still pass that cost along to you at any time, even if you're locked into a lease, because triple net varies based on property tax.
So anyway, I guess that makes it harder for small starting business owners. If you're a larger established business who owns your property, there's a lot of ways to mitigate those tax increases through depreciation and different tax strategies. But for newer business owners, they don't have that establishment. They don't have that money. They're having to rent. So is there anything being done? What do you see? Because you have a lot of business owners coming to you for help.
Well, what happened last year, as you mentioned just a minute ago, was that residential homeowners who have a homestead exemption, they have a 10% cap on the increase in their taxes. So what happened last year, it's going to take effect for this year, is that if you own a commercial property, there's now a 20% cap. I've been here 13 years, and as far as I can look back and see, there's never been something to protect businesses. So it's something that I'm really, really happy about. And 20% cap, it's still a large amount, but at least there's now protection, because I can tell you in the last several years, I've seen properties double, triple, quadruple in value and on the appraised value. And so this is kind of a big step in helping those people.
I saw a multifamily apartment complex jump from $2 million in assessed value to $6 in a 1-year time frame. Triple. Wild. So, thank goodness. How did that 20% cap come to be?
Well, it was passed by the state legislature, and it was something that, we've reached out many times about, hey, what are we going to do to help our business community? Obviously, for me as an elected official, first and foremost is to help our residential homeowners, but also hand in hand is the business community, and we have to do something to protect them, to reach out to them, and try to do things that'll make it easier for them to pay their property taxes. And as you know, the number one reason that businesses go out of business is because of taxes, whether it's income taxes or, employment taxes, property taxes. So we're always looking for ways to make it easier for them to be able to pay it, which is why we have a very unique program. Is we have a half payment plan. There's only about 4 or 5 counties in the state of Texas, 254 counties. And so what this allows is our business community, allows anybody to pay half their property taxes by November 30th, and then they don't have their second payment due until June 30th. Whereas if you just go and pay it all at once, you have to pay everything by January 31st. So this helps our business community. One other thing that we have for the business community is a prepayment plan. And what this does is you come in and you set up your taxes, a payment plan on your own. You set it up with our office. Hey, summer comes around, you got to go on vacation. No harm, no foul. There's no penalties or interest because it's your money. And then come October, we'll bill you for the remainder of whatever's owed. So it's a great tool if you have your home paid off or if you're in business.
Do you have any educational programs for people? I find that I think this is something about human nature is that we're not planners. We're like kind of last minute, or we're reactors. And so it happens with federal income tax. It happens with, if you run a business and you pay your sales tax to the state comptroller, and same thing with property taxes. But do you have any kind of educational programs to help educate business owners and homeowners about how to budget for your property tax, how these programs can benefit them? How do they find out about them?
We've teamed up with the city of San Antonio, and we go out and we make presentations. I think year before last we did 32 of them, plus whatever we do. We do a lot of outreach, and as a matter of fact, we received a national award for our outreach. But and this year again, we're starting. I don't remember how many how many classes we're gonna have, but it's about 30 something, I'm sure. And so we'll be teaming up again with the San Antonio, and we'll speak to anybody. I don't care what business it is. We always ask people, hey, as long as you have 15 people there, we'll come out there. And I'll go out there myself personally. I think I've missed one or two in 13 years. So we're always wanting to go out and do that. Which reminds me, before I forget, April 2nd, we are having a big conference, and y'all are business groups. We're going to be having, we have 1,400 auto dealerships here in Bexar County, and the state has mandated that we go to a new web dealer program, which all the dealerships have to get on by July 1st. So on April 2nd, we're going to have all the dealerships come out and do a web dealer training. And so we're excited about that because we want to keep them all in business, even the smaller ones, especially, the big ones, the McCombs, the Anceras, they have all the things that they need, but your small businesses. So we're doing this as a tax assessor collector's office in order to help 1,400 dealerships stay in business. So we're very excited. It's going to be at the Coliseum at the Expo Hall.
Okay.
And let's go over your functions real quick, and I'm going to just kind of go through them, correct if any are wrong, and maybe if we leave something important out. But so property tax collection administration, which is what we've already talked about, and that's collecting and administration. What does the administration side of it mean?
Well, we set up what we do is, we'll collect the property taxes, and then we have to divvy it up and send it to the different taxing entities. When we send it by the next day, and of course we have to administer the bills. We send out our statements, but we also send out a lot of reminders, which we're not required to do. And so we do that. We set up payment plans. We have automatic deductions. So, for instance, we were mentioning you can set up your half payment plan where we can take out the money in June. So, because a lot of people do forget. So,
and you have a 10-month payment plan as well, right? What's that about?
The 10-month payment plan is kind of our number one thing that we're the proudest of. It's what it does is those that are senior citizens, disabled citizens, and disabled veterans, they're allowed by law to get on a quarter payment plan to pay off their property taxes. But I wasn't satisfied with that because I had seen my parents struggle. So we took it to the next level, and I created a 10-month payment plan. Everybody told me we could never get it done, but we did. And it has been a big, big help for our senior citizens. And I was mentioning earlier that when we go to the mall to do outreach events, and I have to clarify that now because I used to say when we go to the mall, people thought I was going shopping. No, but when we go to the mall to do outreach events, I've had senior citizens literally come up to me in tears thanking us for the 10-month payment plan. And so it's something that we really enjoy doing it. We set them up on automatic payments, whatever needs to be done to help them.
Well, and you guys are also doing motor vehicle registration and titling?
Yes, sir.
And you had mentioned before there's a lot of fraud going on in that realm. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that we do over 2 million vehicle registrations and title transfers. And so it's a big part of our operation. What has happened recently, I'm really glad you brought that up because it's so important, is there's been fraud going on the internet. And so people go on Craigslist, they go on offer up different sites. I don't know them all, but they go on different sites, and so they see a truck for sale. Especially contractors. They see a Ford F-350 and it's for $30,000, and it's 22, 23. And so what they're doing is they get them. They go to, mostly we're going to Katy, but what the scary part is now it's happening here in Bexar County. But they would go to Katy, and they would meet them at a bank building, not inside the bank, but in the parking lot. So you're thinking, okay, I'm in a safe environment. So they'd go there and they'd show them a copy of their ID, their driver's license, which had been doctored, and they'll tell them, hey, take it for a test drive. Hey, don't drive it around. Make sure it's something you want. So the guys would come back and they would say, yeah, I want it, but they had to pay cash. And these people would pay cash. And I can tell you one of the ones that really, really literally brought tears to my eyes, there was a man who didn't speak English, and he went over there and he gave this guy $35,000 cash. So he gets back to our office. We look at the title, we can tell it's fraud right away. And we told him, hey, this truck's stolen. And so he had to go to the police department, and they took away his truck. But we've had up to $42,000. Just last week, we had two. I think there was for $19,000, two of them for $19,000, and one for $26,000. Don't hold me those numbers, but I know it was right around there. And so the moral of this story is, do not buy a vehicle off the internet in general. And if you're going to buy it, you bring that seller with you to my office. If they won't come with you, do not buy that vehicle. Our office is a safe haven. We will make sure that your vehicle it's a good vehicle. And so again, if you're going to buy off the internet, if you're going to buy it from somebody that you do not know, make sure you come into my office and do that, because I can tell you they're out there. I mean, $42,000, I know of one. I mean, it's just crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard of that, and I'm a car enthusiast. I probably bought and sold more than 250 cars
In front of banks? Are you selling them in front of
Howie
banks?
is
but I always had before. I remember in the old days, people used to falsify how much they paid for the car. Now you pay fair market value. There's a computer algorithm that's based on Blue Books, Kelley Blue Book, or whatever, and that's what you pay in taxes. I guess the moral story is, if there's a way that people could take advantage, they're going to. But as Albert is saying, have a paper trail. Do even a cashier's check. But if you go into the Bexar County Assessor's office, they'll tell you right away the title. They'll do the title processing, and it'll go. They'll still mail it to you, but at least it'll be changed into your name. And giving anybody cash, always a bad idea. I had a friend who sold his car, and somebody paid him with a fake money order, fake cashier's check. They actually got it from a bank, and they were in cahoots with somebody at the bank. So the banker gave them, somebody that worked there, gave them a money order, so it was a legit one. And then, of course, when they went to go deposit into their bank, by the time it took 8 or 10 days, they had already taken his car, registered it in their name, or moved it out of state, and then the check didn't clear, Well, anyway.
And I think that's the coolest thing about this. I mean, not that's horrible. But I feel like people, especially very self-sufficient people and business owners, tend to be in this category. They don't realize how many advantages there are in the city work system, in the public service system, that they're able to utilize. Just do the exchange at the tax assessor's office and have them check the thing.
You can also do it at a car dealer and car lots. I've had clients that own big car dealerships, some that own some car lots. Some of them will process the paperwork for you for a fee, and you can do it there. And they can get on their computer and put in the title and all that stuff.
Make sure it's not stolen.
Yeah, correct. And they can do it there. But yeah, once you buy a stolen vehicle, the law enforcement is going to do everything they can to get it back to the rightful owner. And if you bought it, too bad. You're out that money.
Yeah. And you talk about, calling about the stolen. Here's the other thing is that it's usually same day when the vehicle's stolen. And so, they'll show you the paperwork, and then you call into the police department and say, hey, is this vehicle stolen? And they're going to tell you no, because that VIN number is actually off another vehicle that is not stolen. So they are good. It's terrible. I can't think of a worse crime than a person that has saved up his money for so many years and then, takes and it doesn't just happen to people that don't speak English. It happens across the board. I mean, you can be a very, person that's very knowledgeable, but hey, that's why they're out there.
Been going on for hundreds of years. They used to, horses. They'd steal horses and sell them. And
if they can scam, they will scam, and it only gets. I mean, look at AI. Ugh.
Oh, it's probably going to get.
But I have a non-scamming question that I'm very interested to hear. You've been in public service for a super long time, fire department, but then you've actually been working in the government system for, well over 10 years, right? The city just got moved from 7th largest city in the U.S. to 6th this year. Yay. We're also looking at in the next 20 years or so becoming a major metroplex with Austin. We've got a major mayoral race coming up this year. Based on your extensive knowledge of public service, where do you see the city of San Antonio headed? What do you see in the future?
Well, obviously, San Antonio is a great place to live. I mean, it's a city that's second to none in the country, and is Bexar County. I think what we're going to be moving, we're becoming more of a progressive city. My only concern is that we need to take everybody with us when we're going forward, because a lot of stuff is done on the internet, emails, but we still have a lot of people out there that aren't there. If you go to Round Rock, 90% of the people, they own a computer and all that. And here in Bexar County and in San Antonio, we still have a lot of people. And case in point, we were the only county in the state of Texas. The state of Texas received $842 million from the federal government to help people that had suffered from COVID, either on their property taxes, their mortgages, or their utilities. We're the only county that incorporated that program into our office. And I had to set up different booths, different cubicles to help the people, because you could only apply online. And guess what? The people that needed it the most didn't have the internet, the computer, the scanner, and the printer at home. And I tell you this quick story is that the people told me, hey, they're having problems signing on with the mouse. And I said, how hard can it be? And I went down there. I literally watched a lady who had never used a computer for 20 minutes trying to sign her name on this application and couldn't do it. So immediately we put in I don't know what you call them, the signing pads, what have you, and it helped out a lot. But again, that's the only concern I have, is that as we move forward, we need to make sure we take everybody with us, and we also need to concentrate on basic infrastructure and streets. One of the big things that I have a concern about is the medians. And I know it's a small thing, but the medians are not painted, when I was city manager, that was what I did. I painted all of them, put that crushed glass so it would reflect. And as you get older, and a lot of our council members are young, as you get older, it's harder to see those medians. And
I'm not going to tell you I ran into one.
My husband's a traffic engineer, so the way I hear about that kind of stuff all the time, he's like, look, that needs to be repainted. But I think people forget, because San Antonio is such a big city, and we've got, a younger population moving in, but it's also a 300-year-old city, and it's one of the few cities I know where you don't have to move out to the suburbs to raise a family. And so a lot of people are getting old and staying. Like, I've got my neighbors are retired, and they're, my kids' abuelas, and it's just a different generation. I think it's kind of hard for some of us younger generations to compute, because we grew up with social media, computers, cell phones, that there is a large, and, it's still the tail end of the baby boomers that are here in San Antonio living in their completely paid off houses just trying to navigate the world.
Yeah, but you know, some of this stuff is generational, and so if the grandparents didn't have computers and their kids didn't because they do, let's say, blue collar jobs and they're out there doing stuff, and then their kids maybe have access to computers at school, but they don't have them at home. The way I learned about what Albert was referring to earlier about bringing people with us but that you know they don't have access to the internet and those kinds of things was during the pandemic when we went to remote learning. And so many kids disappeared because they had no internet at home. They had no computers at home. And so you had, I don't know what the number was, but, you know, like I know Mark likes to make up statistics. So let's say a third of all students just in Bexar County disappeared. They didn't log in. And it wasn't because they didn't want to learn. It's because they didn't have the ability to log in and connect and use it. And their parents couldn't teach them. So I love the idea of bringing people forward and bringing them with us. How do we do that? I know there's job training. I know there's public programs, but I feel like as business owners, there has to be a mindset of, hey, look, it's going to be better if we bring everybody with us, all of our citizens, because it doesn't benefit business owners who are financially savvy that can make money to live in a city or in a county or in a community where there's a lot of people that can't access or buy their products or services. So what are some of the ideas or one idea where we can bring people with us?
Well, I think like one of the things you mentioned is to make internet, more accessible for people. But I think a lot of it is trying to teach people, make it easier for them to learn. I see my grandson. It was funny because he was at my house the other day, and he was telling my wife, "Hey, Grammy, I need to get on. I need the password for the Wi-Fi." And and my wife's like, and she calls me, "Hey, I don't know what this kid wants," And so anyway, we figured it out. But I mean, they know what to do. But I think it's just a matter of bringing everybody, and I think it's a matter of teaching the kids, because the kids will teach their parent. My father, he passed away 2 years ago. I thought, this guy will never learn how to use the internet, never. And so we taught him, and then he wouldn't get off it. So, I mean, it's a matter of teaching them. If we can teach our seniors, and not even just our seniors, we can teach the world, especially San Antonio, and then stick to the basic structures, this basic infrastructure. Let's not forget about that as well.
Yeah, so let's leave it to the kids to teach them.
We kind of jumped off of the main functions.
Yes, sir.
And so I see you talked about fraud prevention and investigation. This is probably another controversial one: beer, wine, and liquor permitting.
Yeah, we also, the county has to do that, and the city, and of course the state. And one of the problems that we're having, it used to be where the county would collect for the state and the city, and the state, for whatever reason, took it upon themselves to do it by themselves, but they're not collecting for the city and for the state. And so what we're trying to do is not to close down places that sell alcohol, but to educate them, to reach out to them. Hey, you are not legal if you do not have the county portion and the city portion. So we're working on that. But, of course, it's one thing about our office. We do not want to hurt business, and we don't want to hurt homeowners. I can tell you that in my 13 years, I have never once, not one single time, have I ever allowed a senior citizen's home or disabled citizen's home who had a homestead exemption to be taken away. And I can tell you that in complete honesty and complete truthfulness, I've never allowed that in 13 years.
Is that allowed? Doesn't the homestead exemption negate that, or is that just for debt?
No,
but if you don't pay your property taxes, I guess that circumnavigates because the homestead exemption allows you to claim it as your homestead, which means it can't be taken away from you, even if you file bankruptcy.
Right, but I think, and now we're going to talk about that. I know that it used to be, and I don't know if it still is, the IRS can't come after your homestead if you owe federal income tax. But if you owe property tax and you don't pay it, just having the homestead exemption doesn't automatically get you out of not losing your home.
That's correct. That's
okay,
correct.
Got it.
Yeah, which that's an interesting point because, you know, America was kind of founded on that whole homestead thing. This is my land. And the fact that you can lose it, you're always going to be paying on it, right? So we pay for, when we earn our money, we pay taxes. When we spend it, we pay taxes. And then where we live, we pay it's like we're constantly taxed, right? And this whole thing with Doge coming out and the proper use of money and all of that, it's interesting that the discussion is happening out there because people need to evaluate how much am I being taxed and where's that money going. But I would think that there should be a protection where you can't lose your home no matter what. Maybe they put a lien against it, and when you pass away, they can take it. But even that's kind of rough. But
there is a protection for our senior citizens and our disabled citizens and our disabled veteran. Because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do a lot of outreach, and the protection that the senior citizens have by state law is they can get on a tax deferral. Okay, so if you have a homestead exemption, you can get it on a tax deferral. I tell our seniors this, and I said, if you're having problems buying your medicine, you're having problems, buying your food, don't pay your property taxes. Well, how can I say that? I'm the tax assessor-collector. By state law, you're allowed to get on a tax deferral. And what the tax deferral does, it postpones your property taxes. They don't go away, but they're postponed, so you don't have to pay them. And no matter how big your tax debt becomes, your home will never be taken away as long as you're on a tax deferral. So it's a great tool to protect our senior citizens.
So when do you get those taxes?
I'm sorry?
Like
when do they come due?
So when the person, and thank you for that, I left that part out. So when the person passes away, the heirs have 180 days to pay those property taxes. Or the penalty, interest, and everything else will come back rolling in. Okay. And our senior citizens are very proud people, and they don't necessarily tell their children that they're struggling and they're having to get a tax deferral. So it's important that you check on your parents and, not only for taxes, but check on your parents in general and find out if they're on this, because after 180 days, if you haven't paid that property tax, that tax is going to increase. And some of these people get on a tax deferral when they're 65 and, they're 95 when they pass away. It can be a substantial amount of money.
They could just walk away from the house, right? And
right,
then
exactly.
It just gets seized.
It could just walk away from the house. That's exactly true.
Speaking, because we got a home investor, I would call it, here in the room. But one investment technique is to go and pay unpaid back taxes. Can you talk a little bit about how much you see that in San Antonio? Is it a strategy you recommend? Is that something you guys deal with? Because I would imagine if there's unpaid taxes, they would pay you for the unpaid taxes, right?
You can pay somebody's taxes all you want. It doesn't make it your property. And, unlike maybe different states, different countries, they allow that. But here, and we get it a lot because you have a lady or a man that's been taking care of an elderly person, and they say, hey, when I pass away, mijo or mija, you can have my house. Well, so they're there, and then they stay in the house after the elderly person passes away. They're paying the taxes, keeping the house, and what have you. And then here comes a son or daughter says, hey, I'm the heir here. This is my house. So, and they're right. So, but by paying taxes, it does not make it your house. And I see that a lot. But what happens a lot of times, so if there's people that have access to a lot of records, and they can see somebody that's being sued or delinquent, and they'll go in there and they'll tell them, hey, I'll pay your taxes and I'll give you $1,000 or $5,000. You're going to lose your home. And so they'll do that. Some of these people are very unscrupulous, and some of them aren't. But the other thing is when you're protesting or when you don't have a homestead exemption, people know when you don't have a homestead exemption. There's another sad thing. We have 90,000 residences that could potentially qualify for a homestead exemption. And so what these companies will do, they'll go around to Mr. Garcia's house and say, hey, I can get you a homestead exemption, but I'm going to charge you 50% for 3 years. Well, if you come to my office or if you go to the appraisal district, we can get it done for free.
And that goes in the mail. Like as soon as you close on a house, you start getting mail about filing your homestead exemption. It's going to be this much. Like my brother just bought a house in August and he texted me. He was like, should I pay for this? I was like, no, go online. It's free. Stop it. But they do it. How is that legal?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same thing as a lot of these companies, and I see it in marketing, where they offer you this protection for your domain name or for your website or to get on these listings that are irrelevant, really. And they're charging you for a service, and there's nobody saying that service is actually illegal. So it's not illegal. It's just not anything that's needed, and you could go do it very easily on your own.
Yeah, just like valet service, right? You can easily go get your car yourself, or you can pay somebody for
Which is different than another scam going around where they're sending toll
Oh my
text.
gosh, I've got so many toll texts.
Yes.
That's kind of a new one. It's
Luckily
a toll tax,
for me,
but it's
I
not the
always ignore
Texas
them.
State Toll, tags.org, and you can go on there and see that you have no balance, but people like, whatever, it's only $17 and they pay it.
Well, but then they get you on a list
then
of,
they have,
of
then they
suckers.
also have your credit card info, and then they may sell that number in the black market. Now, back to, let's say, homestead exemption. So a natural question would be, why not just put all 90,000 of those houses on homestead exemptions? If you know that they qualify for homestead exemptions, and then also why let homestead exemptions expire? If it's the same owner, why give it a limited amount of time and then ask them to renew or re-up?
So the homestead exemptions don't necessarily expire, but what the appraisal district does, which again, just for clarification, not part of my office, they'll send out occasional reminders to follow up on the property, see, hey, who's there, especially when one of the spouses passes away. In most homesteads, it's either the husband or the wife that pay all the bills, and if that spouse is the one that passes away, they'll start to get a lot of mail, and they don't really check it, and the appraisal district will send a letter to find out. They call it a condolence letter, but really what they're trying to do is find out who's living there. Who is there still a senior citizen there? And if you ignore it, they'll take away your homestead and your over 65 exemption away. So it's important if you do lose a spouse that you respond to the appraisal district's mail.
Also, when you first buy your house, the appraisal district will send you a letter asking you how much you paid for that house. And you do not have to tell them how much you paid for it. Don't tell them. Gives them way more ammunition. Sorry,
This is not legal advice. Please contact.
It's not. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going to tell you.
But
the appraisal district is not your friend. Don't tell them how much you paid for your house.
But again, if you buy it for less than what the current
Then you
appraised
tell
value
them,
is,
yeah.
then you say, hey, look, and let me prove it to you, because then that should get your taxes down to that, right? Because that's what you paid for it, which you would think that makes common sense, that is now market value because you bought it for that price.
I think another important thing is like when
Albert's
people are
not the appraiser.
protesting, he's not the appraiser, but he has to mete out the justice of the appraisers. Woof.
We help people all the time. I'm going to tell you, we help people with dogs. We help people with appraisal. I mean, we really do. There's no such thing. It's not my job in my office.
And that's the thing. So can you give us some tips? Like I know when I protested my house, to show that it wasn't worth the value, I had to show the foundation repair quote, but I had to have gotten it the year before. I couldn't have gotten it last week in order for it to be valid for the appraised value. It was like this really weird caveat that I thought was unnecessary. As you can see, I'm not really a fan. So what are some of those nuances when you are protesting, like to reach out to a realtor to see if they can get you a comparative market analysis, to have quotes from the last year, pictures of traffic? What are some good tips and tricks to getting them?
It really depends on the variance. If you know your house is worth $200,000 and the appraisal comes in at $200,000, then it's really up to you if you think that it should be lower. And basically, like I mentioned earlier, you pretty much have to beat up your house and take pictures and go to the informal and the formal hearing. You mentioned something I always recommend to everybody is to get a comparative market analysis, because if you have a friend that's a realtor, or even if you don't know them, they'll charge you about $50 and you can get that CMA and then take it with you. And if you really want to fight it, you can get an actual appraisal, a formal appraisal, and those run more. I guess they run probably about $300 to $500. But it's important. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to be receiving a value increase notice. If your property increased by $1,000 or more, you're going to be receiving it in April, and you have until May 15th to file. And the two number one, I know we're going to talk about this, I think, later, but the two best ways to reduce your property taxes is to protest your property values if you think they're unfair, and to make sure that you have all your exemptions. And those are the top two ways in order to make sure that you pay the least amount of taxes that you should be paying.
Because they will always go up over $1,000. Always.
It has leveled out a little bit.
Yeah, it did level out this last year.
I did not experience that leveling
Isn't there
out.
something new too, where like if you challenge the appraisal, and I guess if you're successful, I don't know if that's the qualifier, that it's good for 2 years. You don't have to then go back the next year.
Yeah, beginning this year, it's something that I participated in and received some pushback. But to me, one of the most common complaints that we get from our citizens is, hey, I protested my property values. You got to go through all these steps. And, here we are in November. And guess what? I got to go back in March.
Yeah.
And so what we did last year, beginning this year, if you protest your property values and you win, then you do not have to come back the next year. And then so you get a free year. And so it's something that I think is a great thing. However, there's already movement to try to get rid of that, and we just got it. So if you know your legislator...
Let's make it 5 years.
Yeah,
Pay attention to who you elect as mayor.
Yes.
But yeah, I would notify your legislator and let them know, hey, this is not something that we want to erase.
All right, Albert, we're going to need to wrap up. Was there anything that we missed that you want to make sure that we mention before we wrap up?
Just mainly just make sure that, we're here to help you. I can tell you that we want to help our citizens. My staff will tell you that I have never, ever once turned away a citizen or a business that was sincere about wanting to keep their property. We will work with you. Yes, we're going to require down payment. Yes, we're going to require a contract for the payments, but we will work with you. We want to keep families in their homes. Everything we do in our office is designed for our mission statement, which is working to help keep families in homes. And also we want to keep businesses in business. So if there's anything we can do to help you, we're here. Also, again, if you purchase a vehicle from somebody you don't know, bring them to our office. We are a safe haven for our citizens.
And I will say this, because I've been there. I've been a partner in more than 25 businesses over the last 35 years in San Antonio. Like I said, I bought and sold probably 250 cars. I've been down to your office on every floor, and you're absolutely right. Your staff is really there to help. You're very efficient with your numbering system and calling people and going upstairs and the whole bit. And I've had nothing but good experiences. Now I have to pay, but in terms of getting things done, and you can't say that about every government office. I've gone to get like driver's license. Oh no, too bad. Come back. Wait, I have an appointment. They're like, yeah, but you need the paper and it needs to be turned this way, and you bent the corner and go get another one. You know what I mean? And then the next up, go online to make another appointment. The next one's not for 6 months. I'm like, but I'm going to be driving with an express. Yeah, too bad. So it's not the same. So not every government office is created equal, and you guys have done a phenomenal job. So I compliment you for that.
Well, thank you for those
great
kind
staff.
words. Thank you for those kind words. And I will tell you that DPS actually approached us, wanting us to take over their driver's license thing. And we were going to do it, but they would only give us $5 per transaction, and we needed to have more than that. Otherwise, we're going to be losing money, and our citizens would be bearing the brunt of that expense. But yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, good customer service. Sometimes it costs a little bit more. All right, Albert, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Well, they can call our office at 210-335-2251. I have to look at my chief. At my chief.
Sure. You don't call yourself that often, do you? Excellent. Is there a website as well?
Yes, it's bear.org/tax.
Oh,
and you can
easy.
get, bear.org/tax. And really, you can get just about any information that you need from our website. We also put in a new interactive voice system that is really helpful, and we're always looking. I want to mention one thing. One of the things that I got a lot of compliments for was when I first got there, they didn't have any chairs. They put everybody in line standing up. So I put in chairs, and I got so many compliments for that. But here's the other thing. What I started noticing as I got older is that I started pushing myself up to get up. And if you go to my office now, you will not see a chair without armrests. Wow. And it has been our senior citizens, our disabled citizens, and those soon-to-be senior citizens. I mean, and those are the things that we do. We look at our citizens. We sit in the lobby. We watch, and customer service is number one. And I would recommend that for any business that deals with senior citizens. Put the armrests on your chairs because it's a great, great tool.
Yeah, it's good. Always looking for ways to improve what we're doing, right? All right, thanks, Albert. I appreciate you coming in. All right, as we wrap up the show, quick reminder, check out our latest podcast and catch video versions of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. It's going to be it for this one. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.